Birth parents are married to each other, have full siblings. These posts were made by you, buzzerbees in our adoption. Birth parents are married to each other, have full siblings, posted January 2021. I was adopted at 3 months old. I had a dysfunctional family growing up, but I was cared for and loved. Both my adoptive parents passed away in separate car accidents. My dad when I was 17, and my mom 3 years ago, when I was 24. I had a semi-open adoption, but my birth parents requested my adoptive parents stop sending them photos and updates about me. When I was less than a year old, I had a vague idea of who my birth parents were. I grew up knowing their names and I had several photos of them. I did a DNA test, and was matched with 3 full siblings, which shocked me. I was always told they were young, and that they barely knew each other, and wanted to further their education. About 3 months ago I decided to Google their names, and I found their social media. Turns out they are married to each other now, with 7 more children they had together. I stalked them on Facebook a bit, and it seems like they have a relatively happy life. I was shocked to find out I had 7 full siblings, and that my sister, who is closest in age to me, is actually only 11 months younger. I was even more shocked to find I have an older, full brother who was not adopted out, who is only a year and a few months older than me. I ended up reaching out to my birth mother via Facebook, telling her that I would love to get to know her, that I've had a great life and that I have no expectations. She took a month to respond, and when she did, she said she was surprised that I reached out, and to please not contact any of my siblings, as they aren't aware of my existence. I didn't respond for a few days, but I ended up just asking her why she chose to give me up, and why never told anyone about me. She responded and said that I was a NICU baby. She and my birth father were 17 when I was born, and they weren't prepared to raise a disabled child. She said at the time, they were under the impression that I would never live independently, and that they weren't in a place to have a special needs child. I was again shocked. I definitely was always in the lower price tiles for growth until puberty. But according to my grandmother, by the time I was 8 months old, I was hitting all the markers for regular mental development. I have an MS in mathematics from a Tier 1 university. I was an athlete in high school, and I never had any issues in school beyond being really horrible in art class. I'm married, with a child. I'm a fully functioning adult with a successful career and a family of my own. And it hurts to know I was given up on because of the slight chance I wouldn't turn out perfect. Part of me feels like I missed out on a life with siblings. I was raised an only child, and that I could still have a chance to know them and love them. That my daughter would have a chance to have cousins. My youngest siblings aren't even in elementary school yet, and I could have a normal sibling bond with them, or at least be part of their lives from a young age. And I wish that I had that chance. I'm not angry at my birth parents for giving me away. I don't hate them. I'm hurt, but I'm not angry. I am angry that they've requested I not reach out to my adult siblings. And I'm considering doing it anyway. Update: birth parents are married to each other, have full siblings, posted February 2021. I've now met all of siblings. What originally turned out to be 7 siblings turned into 8 when I learned I have a full sister who was also an adoptee. I have spent every day for the past 9 with one of my siblings. I have 3 adult brothers and 2 adult sisters. My sister, who is also an adoptee, reunited with them 2 years ago. You would never know she didn't grow up with them. The 5 of them mesh so seamlessly. I would be dishonest if I said they felt like strangers to me. I feel like I've known the 5 of them my entire life in some ways, despite only a bit more than a week having passed. They call themselves first batch, and they call our younger siblings second litter. It is funnier and more catchy in our language. Haha. I am now a part of the first batch text thread and social media group. It is odd and insane. They're unfamiliar to me in almost every way. But it's more like seeing a best friend after being torn apart by war or tragedy. My oldest biological brother is 29. My younger biological sister and I are both 27. Thought I will be 28 in a few weeks. My younger sister, who was also adopted out, is 25. She will be 26 on the same day I turn 28. The twins, who are the youngest of my grown siblings, are 23. We all have winter birthdays. I cannot imagine what my birth parents went through. My birth mother had 6 children between the ages of 15 and 21. I understand why she adopted out 2 of her children. I cannot imagine the weight on her shoulders. 6 of us are adults. And then there is a considerable age gap. 3 of my siblings are minors. A brother who is 12, and 2 under the age of 6. My birth father arranged through my biological grandparents for me to meet the 3 of them 4 days ago. My youngest biological sister is 4 years old. She is the cutest little girl, aside from my own daughter, I've ever met. She came up to me, tugged me down to her level, and then touched my hair. She said, "Do you know you have curly hair?" I nodded, and she told me that now we were twins, because we were with only sisters with curly hair. I cried and laughed. My youngest brother is younger than my own daughter. My 12-year-old biological brother hugged me and cried a lot. We are the only 2 of 9 who have brown hair. The rest have shades of blonde and strawberry. He and I are strikingly similar. I'll say this again. It is so odd to see your own face in the faces of others. It's never something I've had, and in the last week and few days, I have been overwhelmed by the shock of sharing mannerisms and features with those around me. I met my birth father. He explained that he was young and he thought he did the right thing. And he's happy to see I turned out well. He cried more than he spoke. Last night I video chatted with the first batch siblings. And I met 3 of my first cousins via Zoom. They are a set of siblings. My biological aunt's children, a female cousin and her younger brothers, all close to age as me. They were born and raised in North America, with an American father. Thought one of my male cousins lives in our country. He married a girl from here and they have daughter the same age as mine. I will be meeting him and his wife on Monday. My female cousin and I look so alike. I cried when I saw her face on the screen. My siblings and I are all very similar looking. We are clearly related. However, my cousin and I have the same face and laughter. It was so odd to hear an American accent out of my own face. This set of cousins is very close with my siblings. My female cousin is a flight attendant, cabin crew. This is the only other career I ever seriously consider besides my own. It is also the same job as my own husband. These little coincidences and likenesses are the things I've been missing my entire life. She has a maths degree. She and I have texted all day today. Apparently it is a joke among our extended family that her and her brothers look like they belong to my biological parents instead of their own. And I understand why. All 3 of them are brown-haired, darker-eyed versions of my own biological siblings. And in this way I look more like them. It is so strange to see my face in the faces of others. This very long post summarized. Part of me is a bit bitter about the years lost. Having siblings near my age to brave the strange world through the lens of childhood with. Summer holidays in the States with cousins. One who shares my face and dreams. I did have a wonderful mother and father. And I could never regret the life I've had. Grandparents, siblings, and cousins are all things I've never had until now. I have a reason to go to America. After COVID, I'm going to meet my cousin in person next week. Something I never thought I would say. My husband is excited too. To have a big extended family. We are considered very young in our country to have kids. And now we know other young parents. Update on having married birth parents and full siblings posted February 2021. My daughter had her third play date with her auntie, uncle, first and second cousins. Never in my life did I dream my child would have familial playmates in the same age group. I was always a bit of a loner. It was hard to make friends. I lost both my adoptive parents quite young, and had no living adoptive relatives. My husband is an only child. I never dreamed of an extended family for myself or my daughter. She now has living great-grandparents who lived in our neighborhood. I'm never going to discredit the love my adoptive parents had for me. They were amazing. However, my childhood was dysfunctional and heartbreakingly lonely. My life has been lonely. Now I feel like I really would have people there for me. For my child if anything crazy were to happen. A support system. Reminder. This is not my story. ETA note from compiler. Before you jump down the parents' throats, remember that not all cultures are the same. Their culture very well may not have access to birth control. Yes, they were young, but they were doing the best they could, given the options they had. I read the title as "Birth Parents Are Married to Each Other, Are Full Siblings," and was waiting for the horror in the story. I got real confused. Thought the parents were biologically related and continued bunny hopping for kids. What I want to know is how did it go from mom saying, F off to oop going, I've met everyone. Like, what was the progression there? The thing about the mother having so many children at such a young age and in such quick succession is quite concerning. I kept waiting for the other shoe to drop, but this had such a happy ending. I am also adopted and met my birth mother and some aunts and a sister. But sadly things did not turn out this way. I always dreamed of a wonderful reunion upon meeting them before it all fell apart, and then I grew bitter over adoption reunion stories, feeling stupid for thinking they were so great. This one just changed my whole attitude and completely made me remember the good things I used to hope for, and without any anger. I love this story and feel such bittersweet happiness for Oop. How lucky and wonderful to find your people and acceptance amongst them. Truly warms my heart. This reminds me of the situation in Dominique Moceanu's family. Dominique is a gold medal winning gymnast, and had parents who pushed her very hard to become a gymnast abusively. According to Dominique, meanwhile, there was a little girl born without legs who was adopted and who was a big Moceanu fan, even becoming a disabled gymnast herself. As an adult, she discovered she was Dominique's full sister and her parents had given her up for adoption. Because they didn't want to raise a disabled child, they were focused on turning their other daughter into a gymnastics powerhouse. Dominique later became estranged from her parents and got emancipated while alleging various types of abuse. Later she reconciled with them. When my mother was 18, she had a daughter. She was told by her parents and people at the hospital that the baby had passed away. Years later my parents married and had 2 children, me and my older sister. In 2018 my sister got a message on Facebook. I now have 2 sisters and my mom got to meet her daughter that was taken away from her 42 years prior. Her parents didn't want an unwed 18-year-old daughter with a child living with them, so they put the child up for adoption and told my mom she died. Both of my grandparents who did that died in the early 2000s, so we couldn't get any answers as to why. I feel like we're skipping over the 6 kids in 6 years starting when she was 15. You think they would have learned about birth control after the first couple? Just for reference, my friend in high school was adopted and knew of her birth family. She had many siblings, and as far as she knew, she was the youngest of 12 or so children. More could have been born after her. Her birth family was Afro-Caribbean and they wanted her to have a better life. She told me that her mom told her that her birth family struggled with money, food, shelter, etc., and the parents were getting older and asked a locale agency to find her a good home when she was born. This sounds amazing to find. My question is, why the birth mother was so uptight about not talking to them or the siblings. BC clearly everything was fine. Something tells me there's a middle batch that were all adopted away. 5 adults, 12-year-old, 5-year-old and 4-year-old. They either know how to avoid getting pregnant now, BC may be available now, or there's probably still more they haven't disclosed. They didn't tell anyone about even after their other adopted daughter became known. So it wouldn't really be a stretch to think that there's more out there. I am completely speechless at having around 6 kids from the ages of 15 to 21 and then having more. That's a lot of kids. 12 kids? My whole reproductive system cringed. 12 kids. That's nightmarish. Edit. Oh okay, I misread. It's actually 9 kids. That's fine then. Haha, no, that's infinitesimally less worse than 12. My youngest biological sister is 4 years old. She is the cutest little girl, aside from my own daughter, I've ever met. She came up to me, tugged me down to her level, and then touched my hair. She said, "Do you know you have curly hair?" I nodded, and she told me that now we were twins, because we were with only sisters with curly hair. I cried and laughed. Till what makes people twins? My mother was in a similar situation. She was adopted along with her sister, not biologically related, and much later in life found out that she had a lot of siblings. Her sister-in-law married to her biological brother, who's closest in age to her, who was also put up for adoption, who found matches for everyone on stuff like Ancestry.com. It turns out there were 2 older brothers not put up for adoption. One who died in infancy and the other who was raised by my mother's grandparents. Then my mother, the 3rd child, and her brother, the one whose wife reconnected everyone, the 4th child, were put up for adoption. There were more children as well. And I have an aunt and an uncle who also grew up with my biological grandmother. My bio-grandmother died in the 80s to breast cancer. And there are some weird rumblings about the parentage of the children. Possible incest, etc., etc. But there are no clear answers. Mostly speculations. Everyone alive who would know has said essentially, she's long dead and buried. Just leave those skeletons in the closet. But yeah, my mother didn't know she was adopted until she was 14 and had a hard time dealing with it, because her sister knew she was adopted her whole life. Then, when she's around 50 years old, finds out that she was part of this huge family she didn't get to grow up with. And many she'll never know because they've long since passed away, and likely will never know why she was put up for adoption when they kept this other child who was older. I'm so glad reached out to their siblings. Although my mother has had to deal with all this craziness, she is really close to her biological sister now, which has helped since she was never really close to her adoptive sister and who has since passed away. And that's another whole story. Instincts about feeling connected quickly like that are only weird on a surface level. Humans have an overwhelmingly powerful draw to other humans that subtly resemble ourselves. Not like big things like skin, like eye shape plus hairline, subtle stuff. As an adoptee, something that you learn and is kind of brushed under the rug is there's a decent chance you will fall romantically in love with a reunited family member because of that drive. Supposedly we sublimate romantic love into familial love through the process of aging together. And when two people who look alike meet without that, wires can get crossed. Well, that was a happy ending, but man, she's way more forgiving than I could be. Good for her. Any idea what country she's from? I wonder if the birth parents are Mormon or highly religious, putting up 2 children for adoption because they would potentially have to raise disabled children. But continuing on having as many children as they ended up having strikes me as religiously motivated. Cool. So I read this as birth parents are married to each other, are full siblings. And I was like, whoa, ain't that a kick in the nuts? Quote.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Ericast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.